one component which we haven't seen till now is data table. So data table is used for displaying tabular information. So let's create a project for that. New project, Maven, web application, and data table trials. Okay, next, and Glassfish server, finish. So let's first do some setup. Delete the JSP file, then create a new JSF page. Let's name it index. Okay, finish. Open web.xml file, and in the sources remove this and mention over here xhtml. So all HTML file are going to be processed by JSF runtime. Then go to pages, and over here let's select index page. Save this. So I already went ahead and created a class named person, and we have 3 fields in it: name, department, and ID. So let's create getters and setters, and all will select, and let's create a constructor too. Right click, insert code, constructor, and let's have all 3 of them. So I went ahead and created a bean, which is a request scope bean, and we have a field in it, person list, which is a list of person, and this is a person class over here. And I populated the list in post construct method and get and status for the list. Now we are interested in displaying this information in tabular form. We want to display this list as a table. So over here I already created a data table tag, and the value attribute points to that list which we want to display. So variable represents a single item from this list. So each time the data table iterates through this list, the item value is assigned to the var attribute. For example, the first person over here is assigned to the person variable, then the variables fields are displayed. Later on, the second person is assigned to the person variable, then its values are displayed, and so on. The column represents a single column of the table. So the first column is going to display ID, second column is going to display name, and third the department. So let's run this example, and here's the output. Now let's assign headers to these columns. So over here we will need a f facet tag. Close this, and the column header is going to be person ID, and we have to name this header rather the facet. So this is the word we have to use for representing the header of the column. So let's represent a header for all of them, and let's name this name and department. Let's save and run this example, and here's the output along with the headers. Not just headers, but we can even assign footers to our columns. So let's put a sample footer for one of the columns over here, and let's copy this, and the word here is footer. Let's change this to list. Let's save and run this example, and here's the footer for this column. Now we can provide a caption for the entire table like this. Over here, outside of any columns, we provide another facet. Let's close this, and let's display something. Okay, and the name of the facet is caption. Okay, let's save and run this example. Let me refresh, and here's our caption. So let's display the rows in alternate colors so that it's much more easier to read. So over here in the style tag, let's create class selectors, odd row, and background color is Control CCC, which is a variant of gray. And let's create another class selector, even row, background color is, let's say, FF8, something yellowish I guess. And over here in the data table you have to mention the row classes. So no IntelliSense for this. So let's say odd row, comma, even row. Okay, that's it. So we are saying that these two styles are going to be applied alternately. So let's see that. So here's the output, rows in alternate colors. Let's say we want to style this header. So over here, first let's create a style for the header, and let's give it a background color of hash. We do have a color chooser over here, so let's select some variant of gray, and let's give the text a color of, let's say, white. And over here in the data table you have to mention the header. So header class is equal to header. That's the name over here. Let's save and run this application, and here's the stylized header. Now we are not restricted to putting this text in your columns. You can actually put any of your JSF tags in this. So let's put some other tag than this over here, just creating a sample column, and instead of this let's put a command button, and let's put the value as, let's say, edit, and let's not have any action right now. So if I save this, and here is the edit button, and later on we'll try to do actual editing for the rows. Now instead of this person class, let's try to get actual data from our database. So over here I had mentioned that you place your session beans in a EJB jar file, and you place your web components in a WAR file, and totally we package it in a ER file. Now in Java E6 you can put your session beans even in your WAR file. So that's what we are going to do now, and later on we'll try to create separate WAR files and separate jar file for session beans and package it in the ER file. But right now let's put our session beans in this WAR file so that we have to deal with just one project. So right now we are going to place our session beans in this project itself, which is a WAR project, and later on we'll create a separate ER file containing a WAR file as well as an EJB jar file. So before we create our session beans, let's create our entities. So new entity classes from database, and let's select a ZooDB, the data source we have configured on our Glassfish server, and let's select all, next, and let's not create JAXB annotations, and the collection type is list, finish. So as you know, the mapping of wet, in-house wet and external wet isn't exactly as we want, as we saw in the inheritance mapping in JPA, but right now let's not use those classes. So now let's create a session bean, new, and session bean. Over here let's name the bean as animal management bean. Okay, and let's have a local interface for this, and let's provide a package database dot as beans, meaning session beans. So in the interface of a session bean, I already added a method get all animals which returns a list of animal, and over here let's implement all abstract methods, and here's a method. So let's implement it now. Now let's first of all inject a persistence context. So persistence context, and the unit name is, I press control space over here, and it gets auto entered for me what is mentioned in persistence.xml file, and let's create an entity manager, entity manager em. Okay, now let's write the query, entity manager dot create named query, and the query name is mentioned in this bean over here, find all, which returns all the animals. So animal.find all. So go over here in the brackets, we get IntelliSense for this also, find all animals, and we know that it is going to return an animal class, so we'll mention that. Okay, and let's return the list here itself instead of creating a query object. So that's it, we are supposed to return this. Okay, so it's returning. So first it's creating a query and then we are getting the result set. We could have done this in two statements, but right now I've done it in a single line. So save. Now let's delete this off. We'll populate it from the database. So let's delete this getters and setters. And now we'll use the EJB or the session bean we just created for getting the value. So private, and the name is, you have to specify the name of the interface. Remember, you don't have to specify like this. You shouldn't specify the name of the bean. You have to specify the interface name, not the implementation name. So over here it's animal management bean local, the interface name, and let's keep it like this, and we have to inject this bean, right? In post construct method, now we'll use animal list is equal to animal bean local dot get all animals, and let's create getters and setters for this, for the animal list. Okay, save, and now let's generate a table. So over here, right click, insert code, and select JSF data table from entity, and over here first let's select our entity, which is animal, and the ID properly guesses that animal list returns a list of animals, so that's proper for us. Okay, and it puts a f view and f form. We already have a f form, so let's delete this off, and let's delete this off. So this is a data table. It has created headers for all the columns. So over here let's name it properly, total number, category ID. Let's save and run this example. So let's first clean and build the project. Just to recap, what we have done is we have injected the HAB, the interface is mentioned over here, and we called the method on it, and that's our list over here, and we created getters and setters for that list. Let's run this application. Run, and here's the output. If the cage and category ID seems a bit odd because toString method was called in each instance, so let's change that a bit. Instead of this, let's put some proper names over here. So let's go over here, and for cage, instead of displaying the entire cage, let's display the cage location over here, and for the category, let's display the category type. Let's save and run this example. The application is deployed. Let's run it again, and here we have it in proper form. So let's concern ourselves only with the animal table. So let's delete these columns right now, and we'll delete this. Now let's add the functionality for deleting an animal. So over here I already added a method named delete animal, which takes the ID of the animal to be deleted, and over here let's implement that method in the bean. So implement all abstract methods, and over here I'll say first we'll find the animal with that ID. So entity manager dot find animal dot class, and over here the animal ID. So once we find the animal, we can call remove on it, right, and this will delete the animal. But before we do that, let's check whether a is not equal to null. So only if a is null, we'll remove the entity, right? So let's save this. So over here, let's write a method in a bean which will use the method we have just written over here. So public void, let's say remove animal, and it takes an int argument which is animal id. Okay, and we already injected a ejb, so let's use that. Animal bean local dot delete animal with this id. So our method calls a bean to delete the animal which is defined over here. So over here, instead of void, let's return a string, and over here turn null. Okay, so in a page, in the data table, I already added a column. Now the column header is delete, and I added a command button with a caption of delete. So delete is what is going to appear on the button. So let's add some action. So some data bean, we have to call this method, right? Dot remove animal, and the argument is going to be what was displayed in the first column, which is this item.animal id. Okay, let's save this. So here is what is going to happen. For each row, a delete button will be displayed, and each button in each row will have different animal IDs passed to this method over here. So when you click a particular row's delete button, that ID gets passed over here, and we use our session bean to delete the animal. So let's run this example, and here's our delete button. Okay, let's delete the animal, delete, and if we refresh the page, that animal got deleted. But it's better that when you press the delete button, the table should get refreshed, right? So over here in your bean, over here, let's update the animal list. Animal list is equal to animal bean local dot get all animals. Why I'm doing this is, after deleting the animal, the list is different, right? One animal gets deleted. That's why we again retrieve all the animals and assign it to the list. Now let's save and run this example. Let me refresh. Okay, and when I delete an animal, the list gets refreshed.